Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Parth Kukreja to the show. Parth is the founder of PupRing. PupRing sells custom pet jewelry for dog owners. And today I'm going to ask Parth a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Tech Talks, Parth.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Shant.
So can you share a little bit about your business, the product that you're selling? How do you describe it? And what motivated you to start this business?
All right. Well, PupRing is this brand that I started 2 years ago where we sell custom pet jewelry. We basically take your pet's name, paw print, or nose, and we're right now working on face, but we engrave it into a necklace or ring of your choice. And it's completely personalized for the user. So we do a lot of engravings, we do a lot of stuff like that. And what motivated me, you asked, to get in this?
Yeah, this product is kind of like, the first time I came across your product, I was almost, fascinated. It's like, it's not a ring for the person. It's for the person who is so much attached to their pet that they would go to the extent of having an engraved ring and wearing that ring. So it's such a stretch for me. Can you describe, like, how did you come up with this idea, or how did you discover this idea?
Sure. So I unfortunately can't be credited with discovering this idea, but my buddy, so back in the day, I used to work as a web developer. And my buddy, he was selling this product. He was drop shipping it from a supplier in overseas.
By the way, just to interrupt you, so you said
Mhm.
you worked as a web developer, but you're only what, 19 years old? So are you
Yeah,
talking? Are you
20
talking
now.
like,
I turned 20
okay,
in July of last year.
okay? So we're talking like you were doing web development like 5 years ago, or
Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years
okay, okay,
ago. Wow, I was 18. It's such a long time ago.
okay, okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No worries. Um, but yeah, so my buddy was selling this product, and I was, he hits me up. He says, "Hey, I need a store built. We have this great product," and I'm like, "Awesome! Seems like a cool idea." I also was confused about the idea, but I was like, I looked at his back end, and it was working for him. So I was like, you know what? Can't judge it. So I built him a nice looking store, and he lets me know, "Hey, we decided not to continue with this." And obviously, as a freelancer, I'm like, I'm still getting paid for this, right? He's like, of course. But yeah. So he's like, "Oh, I don't want to continue it. Blah blah blah. Having some issues with the manufacturer." And I was like, "Oh, that's terrible to hear." But I was like, "Do you mind if I take a look at it? Try it myself?" Because I started like 6, 7 other businesses before I got into web development. So I started my entrepreneurship journey very, very early. But so then I was like, yeah, I have a bit of experience running some businesses. I want to try to see if I can, fix up the issues with this. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started with PupRing. Eventually, just took it off the ground, and the rest is kind of history from there.
So your friend, does he still own the business? Are you like partners? How does that work? Did he sell you his business?
No. So he basically, I asked him for more of like a, courtesy. I was like, "Hey, listen, if you're not going to do this, I'd love to give it a shot." He's like, "Yeah, go for it." So he kind of just gave me his Facebook ads data. He gave me some of his data that he had on the, like, basically his information about like what the demographics were, what audiences worked, et cetera, et cetera. And then I used the AliExpress listing, which is no longer available.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't drop ship at all anymore, by the way. I think I only drop ship for maybe 100 to 150 orders, and then I moved everything in-house.
Okay. So basically the guy said, okay, you can take over the idea, and you took over and really created this empire. Does the friend regret it, or?
I'm gonna be 100% honest. I have not talked to him in a long time. But I'm also like, I don't think anyone could have anticipated how big this has gotten.
Hmm.
I definitely didn't. I thought it was just something I was going to do for a little while. Um, but it turned out to be a business which I ended up becoming passionate about. I never like my motivations initially when I started this and my motivations now are completely different because at first I was like, oh, cool, dog break. Now I'm just like obsessed with pets as well. I'm actually planning on adopting my own golden retriever soon.
Oh, cool. So you had this idea. You took over this thing. What was the first thing that you did? Um, so you knew that there was a market. Like at that when you took
Mhm.
this over, you knew that there was a market for it. How did you take that idea and grow it into a business?
So first off, to explain my situation, I was a very, very, very broke college student slash high school. Or actually, no, I was still in high school. Shit,
Okay.
this is so long ago. I was a very broke person. As soon as I hit 18, I applied for a credit card and I got a $1,500 limit. But besides for that, I probably had like a couple $100 in my bank account. So the first goal for me was, since I was working on such a fine line, was to test profitability. So I took um, one of his winning creatives that he made, repurposed it, like edited it around, fixed it up a little bit, and then launched it to see how that would run. And initially, that started to break even. So at that point, it kind of confirmed, most products they have like a U trend. It's like you become very unprofitable, eventually you balance out, and then you start hitting profit. This product, it was like a very small U curve. Like I was maybe only in the hole like a couple $100 before it started to turn around. So I was like, immediately, I was like, all right, this is a product that has a lot of potential. Let me build out some more angles, build out some creatives, and then do a lot more Facebook testing.
So in terms of the people who actually buy this product, can you share a little bit about the demographic of your customer? Is it more
Mhm.
male versus female? Like, is it, I mean, even if you're a pet owner, you really have to be really passionate about your pet in order to wear a ring. I mean, not, I don't think, I mean, I wouldn't wear a ring with my pet's name or, handprint, paw print, something. Can you share a little bit about your customers? What have you learned about your customers and who are these people who are actually buying this product?
Yeah, of course. So for most of my customers or most of the customers for PupRing, uh, it's kind of like a common trend we've noticed. So a lot of these customers, they're extremely passionate about their pet. For them and for me, well, not yet, but soon. But a pet is kind of like a family member. It's like someone that you get added onto your external family. So it's a lot of like love and a lot of stuff built around it. So you get your kid like a tablet, people get their kids like or people get their doggos like a pup ring. But in terms of audiences, why marketing, we went through the entire range. When we started, we did older demographics, like we had 45 to 65 women who were interested in golden retrievers and stuff. Um, just various dog types, and we just tested that interest targeting. And then nowadays, we're noticing that a lot of our demographics are now younger people. So we're hitting anywhere between 20 to 30, and that's been working for us well at scale.
And is the idea that these um, people who are really passionate about their pets, they may not even know about this kind of a product that exists. It's really that you run the ad, it pops up on their phone maybe, and
Mhm.
they say, okay, this is exactly for me because I love my dog. It's kind of like a family member, and it's kind of a novelty thing, and probably not very expensive. Let's get this made. Is that the general idea?
Yeah, it's like an impulse purchase. And the crazy part is a lot of people we haven't even been able to do much with Facebook ads. Like now obviously we've moved it over to more Facebook ads and all that stuff. But for the entirety, if not most of 2021 and half of 2022, like the first couple of months, our main traffic source was actually just organic TikToks and organic Instagram content.
And that I mean I want to come to that point in a little bit. I know
Mhm.
you've done really great with your TikTok. Um, so so you launched this business. Can you share, like, you started running ad, and is that really the way you started getting your first customer, or as you said, it was completely organic?
So when we started launching ads, just so that I understand the correct question correct, I'm just going to rephrase it. How did we kind of get started with this, or?
How did you get your first customers and start to scale this business?
Oh, yeah. So our first customers were through ads, just through our AliExpress supplier, which I only use that supply. I'm very against like drop shipping in the sense of having anyone wait 20 to 30 days for a product is just absurd in my head. So I only used AliExpress for maybe like the first 50 orders. And there was a running joke at that time, which is painful to say, but it was true, that our 500th order would arrive before our first order, just because our 500th order was more of an in-house structure that we made versus our first order was through the supplier.
So what kind of equipment or machinery does it take to do this in-house? And what kind of investment did you make to acquire that?
Sure. So initially, when we first started, I ran everything out of my basement, and it was a hassle. I'm so happy I have great parents. My parents helped me out with the fulfillment initially.
Okay.
Like they're like, hey, if you're taking your basement, we might as well help you. But I bought an engraving machine straight from China. I had no idea how to operate one of these things, and I literally had no clue what I was doing. I just bought a machine, and I was like, I'm gonna learn it because I kind of have to.
How much how much the machine?
The first machine we got was 4,000, so it was still a hefty fee to get, but it was definitely worth it because at the time our Facebook feedback score was like dipping below a 2, which for most advertisers, they know that when you dip below a 2, you're unable to advertise / your engagement is lower. So it's not something we wanted to even ever occur, but it was something that desperately needed to happen. So we brought everything in house. It took a while to figure out the proper settings, but once we started having a more personalized process where we worked directly with the customers and were able to offer shipping within like full delivery in 10 days, a lot of customers were happy because our biggest issue was the shipping times. Customers just didn't want to wait 30 days for something that seems like it should only take maybe like a few days to make.
So you got this machine from China. I'm assuming how big is this machine, like the whole operation?
It wasn't that big, but it was extremely heavy. I could say it's probably the size of probably about like 6 feet by 8 feet by 3 feet.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big, but it came in 2 parts. So it had like the laser engraver at the top, and then it has like the laser box, which is attached to it. And it was like so heavy, I had to put it on a skateboard and wheel it into the house.
Okay. So even the shipping must have been quite expensive then from China.
Oh, it came in the world's biggest wooden box. Literally, I come back from school one day and there's just a giant wooden box sitting on the porch.
No.
We had to get a crowbar and everything to pry it open, and my parents were like, Parth, what are we gonna do with the wooden box in our garage?
So and then there was there like an instructional manual with the box on how to operate the machine? And
I got a bit, I wouldn't say lucky, but actually I'll say lucky. I got a bit lucky. So I had a buddy who was very into the engraving space. So I just asked him for advice. He routed me to the manufacturer. The manufacturer just kind of helped me figure out the machine. So I just kept messaging them on WhatsApp, and they were like, okay, do this, this, and this. But, after a certain amount of time, when they close the sale, they're like, yeah, we helped you out, but please stop bothering us.
Okay. So machine is the one part. So machine does the engraving, mm-hmm. and I assume you need the ring part of it also. So you purchase that from China as well, or?
Yeah. So now we have a direct manufacturer in China who works only with us on the product. So we have all our different variations with this specific supplier. And it's been a hassle trying to find the supplier because some suppliers they say, oh, it's 925 sterling silver, but then when you get the material checked, it's not completely sterling silver. They're trying to skimp off the material. So it took a while, but we finally got a supplier who is willing to work with us and isn't trying to, rip off the material or anything like that.
Okay. So, I mean, now your business is what? It's like 8 figures.
No, I wish. We are in the mid 7-figure range.
Mid 7 figure. So, I mean, as a 20-year-old with this kind of a business, which I'm assuming has a decent profit margin, and to me, it seems like it doesn't even require a lot of investment back into the business. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you see this business? And I'm assuming it's continuing to grow. How do you want to grow it? Can you give me an idea?
So personally,
Yeah.
I'll talk about the business idea I have and then my personal growth. But
Yeah.
for personal growth, I kind of decided to go out on a whim and I got an apartment in New York. And I've quite frankly learned that New York is very expensive and saving is important. But my game plan when I came into this entire business was to, be financially free. So definitely one of the things I wanted to start doing was I'm big into stocks. So I like to put money aside for saving. And, just like just this year, I've kind of learned that, it's probably better to buy rather than rent so I can get more property invested and just diversify myself so I can eventually, retire healthily. Or if I want to, do other ventures, I don't have to worry about the money aspect as much. But basically the goal for me is financial future. For PupRing, the goal basically is to just keep growing. Like right now we're expanding our team drastically. We just got 2 new people hired this month. Lizzie and we're finalizing the candidate, so
Okay.
I don't know if they are, but Lizzie and one other individual. And it's awesome. It's really good to have these like new people added on because you feel good, and also it's like, hey, it is growing, and it's like it becomes a lot more real when you have all these people depending on you for their paychecks.
Okay.
So it's awesome. It's really great experience, but it's also very, very stressful.
It's stressful in what way?
Stressful in the way that when you're doing something you don't want to make a mistake, but at the same time, if you're ever too afraid to make a mistake, that's when you truly lost, in my opinion. Because the best way to learn is by seeing what doesn't work. And obviously when you're at the bigger you get, the more you want things to work, the less you're afraid to make mistakes. And it's just stressful in the way of because you have to like weigh out your choices now. It's a lot more like, oh, before when it was just me, if I fail, it's all good, I can always start up, I can always rebuild my capital, I didn't put too much into it, et cetera, et cetera. But when you have a team of, let's just say 7 people, you now have you plus the 6 other people that you have to make sure are able to get paid on that timely manner.
So I mean, as a 20-year-old, you have to be very disciplined not to go just start, buying, great cars and all doing all the kind of things that, a young person would want to do. Have you splurged on something since you started,
Unfortunately, yes, I've splurged on my M1 finance account. I've given it a little too much contribution.
Which finance account?
M1. It's an investing app. No, I actually did splurge. I was making a joke.
Okay.
I did splurge. I got an apartment in New York with my buddy, my brother, my buddy, and me. And it's honestly been a really good experience because it forced me to. Because like when you're working in your parents' basement, right, you don't have the perspective that most adults do. Because most adults, they have bills, they have expenses, they have a bunch of things to handle. And then when you're like 19 and you come into all this wealth, it's a lot hard to get the perspective that other people have spent years getting. So getting into this apartment and then having to deal with all these, things, it gives you a lot of perspective on what you need to prioritize as like a young adult.
Okay. So let's shift the topic a little bit towards marketing side of things.
Yeah, of course.
Would you consider your business to be marketing driven, or is it really organic acquisition?
I think even if it's organic, there's still marketing involved. Like my answer to this would be, I think everything is marketing. But in terms of if we're not being technical about it, I would say organic is our primary revenue driver and traffic driver. It's moreover like organic builds up a community. And then as they receive the content, we don't have some people on organic, they just follow us. They don't impulse purchase. They don't even know about the PupRing site. They just come onto our Instagram because we post funny content. And then eventually we'll mention like a sale or mention something and they're like, oh, wow, you guys have these awesome products. And then they go ahead and shop with us. Or for some people, they just see one of our TikToks. They're like, yep, got to get this ring. It's awesome. So I think there's a bit of marketing in everything we do, but our biggest focus as a company is just building the customer experience on organic, just building it so that way they have a reason to come back and engage with us as a brand.
Now, you're not the face of the company in a way, because it seems like your partner, business partner, is the one who's actually making the social media content. Can you share a little bit about that? How did you get a partner? Is he like an equity partner? And what is the general strategy of making engaging content on social media?
Sure. So initially, when I first started PupRing into the first month, I wasn't the best at marketing at Facebook ads. So I asked a buddy of mine, Alex, who's now my business partner, to go ahead and help me out with the ad side of things. And, he helped me out, made sure the ads were profitable, but he saw a lot of potential in me and the business. And he eventually was like, hey, listen, I kind of want to go in on the business with you. And at first, I was like, yeah, let's definitely do it. And we worked our way up to a 50-50 split where now it's not just him doing marketing. It's like, we have a dedicated team. He's doing some organic stuff. I'm out here managing the team, finances and all the fun stuff that no one, that, it's super important, but no one really cares about. But the thing is like, well, everyone cares about finances. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a bit nervous because there's a reason I'm not the face. It's because I'm usually like a very what's the word I'm looking for? Introvert.
But you're doing just fine. So
thank you.
You're doing great. So yeah. So I guess my second part of that question was, it seems like so this partner of yours, and I've seen some of the TikToks. They're funny. He's engaging. He's creating this piece of content really organically. He comes across very natural. Does social media really just boil down to being the kind of personality that really just flows well on social media content kind of a thing? Or does he actually have some sort of a strategy? You map things out. Okay, this day I'm going to create this content, map that kind of a thing out in a calendar and work in that fashion.
So I know from Alex's point of view, he probably says he has a strategy. From my point of view, it's more of like organized chaos, in the sense of he has all these awesome ideas, and most of them obviously are written down and logged, and we'd like to see what works better. But when it comes to creating the content, he kind of just creates whatever feels right to him in the moment. So if he's like, oh, I want to create this today, he goes ahead and creates like 2 or 3 of those styles of TikTok. Obviously to him, he knows a lot more about that side than I do. So he probably has like a method to his madness. But from an outside perspective, it's more of, or at least from an other internal perspective, it's more of like me just witnessing all of these random videos go together. But at the end of the day, we log what works, and we take it into a similar strategy to what VizCat Media does, which is you log the hook, you log the content, you log the different parts of the content, and just see what works.
So in terms of your most successful organic channel, is it just Instagram and TikTok? And even between those two, it's more TikTok than Instagram?
So in 2021, it was TikTok because back in the day, TikTok had their crazy algorithm, which anyone could go viral. And then in September, they changed up their algorithm. So that way it's a lot harder for you to go viral, and they changed up a lot of the metrics around it. And that's when we kind of pivoted over to Instagram Reels. And Reels has been kind of our primary traffic driver ever since, with TikTok, still as like up there, but it's not our primary anymore.
Wow, very interesting. So it's almost like in the social media world, you have to almost chase the next new thing that's coming up, and you really have to uh, get in on it early on to really capitalize. I think that that's becoming true of any kind of audience channel, even with like social, any social channel. When there's,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. With we noticed with iOS 14, like everybody and their mother was running Facebook. Like the only strategy that people had to make their businesses successful was to go ahead and do all these crazy Facebook strategies. And the second iOS 14 came, boom, a lot of these companies just disappeared because they didn't adapt. Organic is like one of those things where you have to adapt. Like even now, we're starting to see Reels dip down a little bit, and that's why we're moving over to more YouTube, because we think YouTube is the next platform where Reels go. But the interesting part of YouTube, and this is kind of like an insider secret that one of my buddies told me, is that instead of posting daily, which Instagram and TikTok want, your Reels go more viral if you post every 3 days, which I don't understand the logic of, but it works.
Okay, very interesting. A little bit about competition. So it seems
Mhm.
like there's a big market for this product out there. I'm assuming you're selling mostly in North America, or is it like a global kind of a thing?
So most of our social media ads are directed towards, so all of our ads are directed to US, Canada, but our TikToks reach like everywhere. So on the TikTok side, we have like a lot of international orders, but mainly our retargeting and our primary customer base is North America.
Okay. So basically, the question I was trying to ask is, if you think about competition,
Mhm.
and there's a market out there, do you have other competitors, other businesses that are building these kind of rings? And are you um, because I don't think you can patent this idea, right? So how are you making sure that you are able to, like, you're not losing your market share with you know a bunch of other businesses? Because to me it seems like making this ring, as you said, getting a $4,000 machine, anyone
Mhm.
can start printing or engraving these rings. How are you making sure that you maintain your customer base and your share of the market?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So for us, obviously we've made a big enough splash in the ocean where some of our competitors are even trying to put their own version of a dog bone ring. And the reality is while they're trying to replicate what works for us right now, we're trying to develop more products that will work in the future. Like our newest product that we're planning on bringing up is something that involves like engraving the pet's name. So right now we have a product that engraves the pet's paw, and that's been a complete absolute hit. Our customers love that. So what we're trying to do is eventually change our engraving style so it's a lot more detailed, and focuses on like the paw, the name of it, right? And obviously, and anyone who goes ahead and gets an engraving machine, gets a supplier, and goes ahead and does this, they have a good chance of making a splash to the market and potentially competing. Um, but I don't think that and the reason we're a lot more open with our strategies and all that stuff is because there's not a lot of people who are willing to take that kind of risk of going out and dropping almost ten to $20,000 on a product that may or may not work for them, right? So we're more than happy to share these strategies, because at the end of the day, if someone wants to go ahead and do that, I mostly will welcome them, because I believe there's enough of a market share for all of us to be able to come to the table and eat together.
And given that now you probably have, or you actually do have a big customer base of people who have purchased from you, and also a big base of audience on your social media channels and other channels, do you ever think of like making your business more of a pet products business rather than pet jewelry business. So, you can start selling maybe your own branded, uh, you know, pet food or, pet apparel. I mean, I'm not very familiar with the whole pet industry, but
Mhm.
I mean, to me, it seems like it would be very easy for you to start adding another product or product line and growing that and then adding another thing and so forth and really just building a pet based business out of this.
Oh, 100%. I think one of the things we're planning on doing is developing Alex actually funny enough wanted to make like pet t-shirts and all that stuff and develop more of into like an alpha paw approach. Alpha paw is one of our not really a competitor, but it's one of the brands we look up to
Hmm.
in the pet industry because what they do is they have a solid following on social media and the only product they have is paw print based or pet design t-shirts, like mainly dog t-shirts. And obviously, anyone can open a print on demand store and do that kind of stuff, but they do in a different kind of way where they have such an engaged audience, a great following on Instagram, and they've just adapted throughout the years in a way that's very admirable to us. But back on track, I'm so sorry. What was the question again?
um, growing your business, like one adding new product lines and growing your business like that.
Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I was getting back to. Getting back on track to the question. My mentor still tells me there's a lot more room to grow with the dog bone ring.
Okay.
Like even though we have these other products that are absolute bangers and doing well, he's like, nope, you can still scale the dog bone ring. You can keep putting more spend into it. And seeing the numbers he does, he's probably right.
So who's your mentor?
Oh, right. So he's a good friend of mine that I take a lot of advice from. He's his name is Colin McGuire. He runs Boomin. Um, long story short, he's probably like what is it, like a 9-figure entrepreneur, and he
Okay.
manages like 14 brands or something crazy like that. And I don't know how I got here, but I have the absolute pleasure of learning from him. Um, and it's a great like opportunity because I get to see how he thinks and how he operates his brands, and he offers a lot of helpful insight onto what we could be doing better and just a different way of looking at business.
So let me ask you this question, given that now you have so much experience in e-commerce and you've seen, your friend who's doing it on a different scale.
Mhm.
Um, if you want to take a new product and build an e-commerce business out of that, a product that is not as unique as dog pup ring, what would you do to make it successful? Like let's say you just take a generic product, any kind of product, and you want to build an e-commerce business out of it.
Mhm. So my advice that I would give is something that was told to me by Colin, and I'm going to share it with you because I think this is the most important thing of ecom. And when you actually hear this, it will blow your mind. Um, think of your business as a content creation agency, right? Your entire goal is to keep on creating more content, and you monetize through the product. When you get in that state of mind, your entire goal is to just keep creating more and more content. So if it's for ads, you keep creating more and more different advertisements. Um, if it's for organic, you keep on creating more and more organic content. But the more content you put out there, the more people engage with it. Similar to like YouTube, right? Um, a lot of people are out there, building these awesome YouTube channels, and they're not focused on monetizing products or anything. Obviously, eventually they can monetize whatever they want because they have such a great following. But the advice I would give is create the content, and if your content's engaging enough, you can monetize your products or your services or whatever you're trying to create through there.
So basically, the the secret is really you have to create engaging content, and
Mhm.
with that you can attract attention, and then once you have that attention, you can monetize it in any way you want.
Exactly. Like you can have a groundbreaking product, but if you look at the best brands out there, like for example, Zesty, it's a hot sauce brand, right? They have such insane content that I actually buy hot sauce at $12. Right? And if you tell me that at Costco I'm gonna spend $12 to buy hot sauce, I'll be like, you're out of your mind. But then I look at their content, I look at their ads, I look at all that stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I have to try it out. I have to try it out, and I love it. Their hot sauce is actually good. So it comes down to the way your brand is put out there. Like Doe Lash is another example, right? Like you can get lashes anywhere. You can go on Amazon, get them for a few bucks. But instead, you have people paying like tens of fifteens of dollars, even $20 for packs of lashes, which is insane. Ridge Wallet, it's literally just metal screws and a band. But the way that they put themselves out there is just such it's their content is so engaging, and it makes you think about the wallet like altogether in a different way. Like I actually have a Ridge Wallet right there. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not my cup of tea. But the fact is I still got it because I love the marketing of it. And I was like, you know what? I have to see what the rage is all about.
So at the end of the day, you really have to be a personality or a brain that can create that kind of engaging content. Very, very interesting. A little bit about your warehousing, fulfillment, shipping strategy. To me, it seems like your product is small enough that you don't like. Do you have your own warehouse? And can you share a little bit about your shipping? How do you manage that?
Sure, I have a story to share with this though.
Okay.
It's very integral to how we created my or not my our shipping network. But back in the day, I used to play a lot of video games, and on my Discord server with my buddies, we ended up playing games with this guy. His name was Gordo, right? And he was one of my friend's friends. He was just stationed in New Jersey for Marine Corps stuff. So eventually, I hung out with him because I was like, oh yeah, Gordo seems like a great guy. We played games together. Awesome guy. And then I kind of told him a little about PupRing and what I was trying to accomplish back in like 2020. And he was like, dude, this sounds like an awesome idea. I want to help you out with I want to help you with fulfillment because, you talk about all the time and how painstaking it is because it really was back in the day. He's like, I want to help you out. You've been such a good friend to me. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'll come over for free. And I'm like, nonsense. If you're gonna help me out, you get paid. That's how it works. So he came over to my house, an hour drive out of his way for no reason but to just help a friend. And he just sat down and did rings with me. And it became to a point where I had him on payroll for all of 2020. And then eventually I was like, he finished his contract with the Marine Corps and he wanted to move back to Ohio, which is where he's from. So after knowing this guy for 6 months, I give him the entire engraving machine along with all our inventory to take back to Ohio and put in a warehouse. And that's kind of how our fulfillment department became. Now we have a Gordo who manages and oversees all of the fulfillment for PupRing. And he loves it. I'm happy he's there. And it was just such a random string of events that led to, me not having to engrave rings ever again, which I'm thankful for because it's a very painstaking process in the sense that it's very detail oriented.
So I mean that's very interesting. Why? But to me it seems like that's also the kind of thing that you can easily hire a person for. So why were you doing it yourself?
It was more of the sense that I wanted to. Well, first off, back in the day. In 2020, I wouldn't feel comfortable hiring anyone because I wanted to make sure profitability was there. And at the time, we made a lot of mistakes and we weren't as profitable as we'd like to be. And also, it was moreover just we went through all these hurdles where we had it first being shipped to us and then drop shipping and all that stuff. It felt right to finally do it myself. That, and I'm also kind of like a control freak. I like to see how everything's going.
Okay, cool. So that brings me to the final question here. I know in every entrepreneurial journey, there's always mistakes made, failures, lessons learned. I'm sure, there were some of those in yours also. Can you share maybe one of your biggest mistakes that stand out for you? What was the lesson learned for you and what can other entrepreneurs learn from it?
Let's see. We made so many mistakes to the point where at this point I kind of just shrugged them off and I'm like, oh, yep, that's just another mistake for the books. I wouldn't say that honestly, I can't say that I have a biggest mistake off the top of my head. I guess the worst mistake I could have ever made was not taking action on something. In the sense of like a real life example that we had last year was we had a team of media buyers that weren't performing up to standards that we wanted to hit, right? So we obviously wanted to hit like just for example's sake, let's just say a 2 MER, right? We wanted to hit a 2 MER and our media buyers were just shy of the note slash weren't hitting it. And at that time, we know that if we pushed a lot more content and we did a lot more things differently, there is a great chance we can even hit 3 or 4. And the relationship just wasn't working between us and that media buying company. But rather than, cut it off and take media buying back in house, we ended up waiting like 3 months. And that almost brought us to the brink of bankruptcy because we were too afraid to take the action that was needed. So I guess the advice that I can offer is, just don't be afraid to take action. I know there's a lot of like, what if or if thens and buts, but the reality is not doing something is a lot more painful than doing it and failing. Because if we didn't get rid of those guys, we would have kept them. Sure, I might have kept like a relationship that might not have even lasted because let's be real, they're media buyers. They don't like me for my great jokes and nice hairline. They like me for the money I give them. But yeah, just not. If I took action on that sooner, we would have saved ourselves tens of thousands of dollars, and we might even have scaled faster because we would have done that.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. And in this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions and you have to answer them maybe in 1 word, 2 word, 1 sentence.
Sure.
So the first one is one book that you would recommend to entrepreneurs or business professionals in 2022 and why? Do you read books?
Of course.
Okay.
Good question. One book that was relevant when I started was The Third Door. And the reason I like that book so much is because it gives you a different way of thinking. But one book that's also relevant right now for me is The 1 Minute Manager, because it gives you a different outlook on how to manage a team in a great environment. Sorry, I had 2 books. They're just both on the top of my head.
That's great. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
I don't know how long this will take to come to fruition, but one of the things that I'm completely fascinated about is bioprinting, because I just find the idea fascinating that in the future, they'll be able to print vital organs, that we have donor lists that span for miles long. Instead, you can hook it up to a 3D printing machine and just print yourself a new kidney. I think the idea is fascinating.
Very interesting. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend or productivity tool?
I don't know about a service altogether, but if there's one thing I recommend paying for, it's Microsoft Excel. We have everything on Excel. We have all of our organization for our media buyers, from our daily P&L to what content in our modular strategy works best.
Yeah, Excel is definitely great. So, I mean, I have used Google Sheets a little bit, but not, of course, it's not as, I'm not used to it on that as much as Excel. You don't use Google Sheets?
So I am not a fan of Google Sheets, but I've had to become a fan of them because everything we do is in a team environment now. So I personally prefer Excel for my personal stuff, but I've just had to get used to Google Sheets as well.
Okay. Startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great?
I think VizCat Media. They're a marketing agency. I'm not working with them or affiliated with them in any way. But if you look at their brands, their modular style of testing out creatives is very, very interesting.
What is the name again? VizCap Media?
Yeah, VISCAP Media.
Okay. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to or someone who inspires you? I know you mentioned one of your mentors, but anyone else?
Honestly, I look up to my business partner, Alex, because I look up to Colin, obviously, because he's my mentor, but I look up to Alex a lot because even when times are tough, he keeps his head centered. And then when times are great, he's always the best person I can call to get a beer with.
Okay, great. And final question, best business advice you ever received or you would give?
I think it's the thing I said earlier, where if you look at your business as a content creation agency instead of an ecom business, just that frame of mind that you put yourself in will get you to massive success, at least in ecom, at least from my personal experience, because creating content is the most important thing, especially with ads, right? Like the best way to be profitable with Facebook ads nowadays isn't to come up with some new creative strategy or whatever. It's to go ahead and figure out what works and just keep creating content that does work.
Cool. Well, thank you, Parth. Very, very interesting interview. Very interesting talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your business strategies and tactics. Really, 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 really appreciate your time. If anyone wants to buy your product, where can they go and purchase it?
If you want to check out PupRing, go ahead. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at PupRing. And then if you want to buy the product because you love the idea so much, you can go to pupring.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
And
so
it was
much
also a
again.
pleasure to talk to you, Shashank. I hope I didn't drone on too long. I'm not the best at interviewing, so
no, I think it was. I think it was great. I mean, I really appreciate it.
thank you. I appreciate.